If you are not succeeding in business as often as you would like, and it feels kind of unpredictable, then this video is for you. In this video, I'm going to walk you through a concept that'll explain why you are not succeeding as often as you like and how to change that. So let's pull my board over here. I want you to imagine, I don't know if I need the board, but I like visuals, and I'm guessing you like visuals. So actually, I don't need the visual yet. um, so let's imagine you are going for a hike. You're going to explore a new area you've never been before. You know how to get to the trailhead, and then beyond that, that's all you know, because the way that you like to explore going on a hike and exploring new places is to really wander and create your own path and let those nudges and that kind of inner calling guide your way. So you start off your hike, you see sort of a bend in the corner that looks exciting and promising, and you go that way and you take a left and you see a beautiful view, and that's nice. And then you say, where do I feel like going next? And you're like, oh, I feel like going down this path. And you go down that path and you kind of let your intuition and these sparks that you see along the way guide your route. That's what I would consider like a wandering approach. Now, on that hike and in that exploring, you might discover some beautiful waterfall that you didn't know was there, and it just takes your breath away. And it's so beautiful and lovely, and you're just so in awe at this experience. That's what I would call unintentional success. You've taken this approach to kind of wander and let whatever nudges are there guide you, and there's no real agenda. There's just the beauty of the moment. And in those moments, you're soaking up what you can, and you might stumble across something magical and beautiful, and you might not, right? You don't really know. It's kind of this wander and see approach. Now, don't get me wrong, I love a wander and see approach. As a creative person, wander and see is like my happy place. I love the like discoveries that you didn't know were there, and just sort of being in the moment and letting life unfold in front of you. That's honestly my happy place. But what I realized in business is that that approach to business is very challenging, because sometimes you're going to wander and see. And when I'm using this example, I'm talking about like not having a clear cut like strategy and kind of just doing things and seeing what happens, right? Like we're just sort of freely doing things and seeing what happens. Now, there's a place for that, and that's a beautiful thing. But if that's the only approach that you take in business, what's going to happen is that sometimes you're going to wander and see results that you're happy with, and you're going to be happy with the growth or the success that you have. You know, those times when you land on a waterfall and you didn't know it was coming, that's great, and that's fun, and that's exciting, and that feels great. But then there's going to be other days, weeks, months in business, if you're taking that approach, where you might not land on that waterfall really ever. And that's going to start to feel discouraging, disappointing. You're going to start to feel like it's all very unpredictable, and you don't know what to do, like to succeed, and what to do not to succeed. And it's going to start to feel really discouraging, and like you're not going to be able to have long-term success. Like it's going to be hit or miss, and there's no way of determining when you're going to succeed and when you're not going to succeed. That's the problem with the wander and see approach. And that's what I would call unintentional success. When you just, by luck and chance and other factors also, land on the place that you want to be. And I have talked to some people in business who have experienced this once or twice. Like, oh, I created something, I put it out there, and it just did great. Like, I don't know how, I didn't see it coming, I was really surprised. That's not very common, to be honest. And some of us may have that as moments in our career or in our journey, But for that to be the norm is just not true. It's not the case. And what I've found is that if people have that and then they go on to not experience that again in the future with something else, then they think that something is wrong and that they're not doing it right. When it's like, no, you just had a really great like burst of luck. And you also need to integrate another approach and strategy than just the wander and see approach. So, where wander and see is you have the chance to have unintentional success, I want to introduce you to another way of doing it. So, imagine now that you are going on a hike and you take a very different approach. You maybe know that there's a waterfall out there on this hike, and you get a map and you identify where the waterfall is, and then you identify where you're starting, and then you map out a course, and then you intentionally go that course to arrive at the waterfall. Now, does it lose a tiny bit of the magic from like stumbling upon a beautiful waterfall by chance? Yes, it does. I'm going to be terribly honest. It does. Is it a little bit less creatively fulfilling? You could argue either way. But here's the thing that I know. I know that if you take that intentional approach to success and going where you want to go, then you are going to hit the mark significantly more often than the wander and see approach. So, this is what I want to offer to you. I want to offer to you that you need both. You need both. And quite honestly, you need the intentional success model probably 80% of the time, and the unintentional wander and see approach about 20% of the time. And here's why. The intentional success model of knowing where you're going, mapping it out, taking the steps to get there is going to be more consistent. It's going to be more reliable. You're going to be able to, with a lot of confidence, say, this is the success that I want in business, and this is where I'm going. And then you'll take the steps and you'll get there. And that'll be so, so beautiful. Then the wander and see approach is what you can use for when you're trying new things, when you want to try something new, when you want to discover the cause and effect of a different approach. That's where I would recommend using that wander and see approach. So that if you're balancing that 80-20, then you know that at least 80% of the time that you're going to be hitting the mark on your business goals, you're going to be growing, you're going to be succeeding. And that 20% of the time, you might make magic. You might hit something amazing. You might discover something new. You'll get the satisfaction of being able to like test something new and see where it goes and that yummy stuff that we love as creatives. But you're not going to be relying on that 100% for your business success. So that's why I think that you need a mix, and it may not feel incredibly intuitive and natural to you at first to take a more intentional approach if you're somebody who's been operating from that wander and see, let my nudges guide the way. And by the way, I still believe really strongly in internal guidance and nudges, etc. But I believe that you need to use that in a more intentional model. I'm not going to get into what that means right now. I think that's where a lot of people go wrong on plans, is that they engineer that piece out of it. You absolutely need to have that in there, but in a more intentional way. Okay, so if you're someone that's like, ooh, I think I've been taking this wander and see approach. Like, I try this random thing, I try this random thing, I try this random thing. Sometimes something pops off and works, and sometimes a lot of things don't. It's not predictable. I need a more consistent, predictable, reliable approach to business success. Then what you absolutely need is to integrate an intentional approach to goals and growth and business success, 100%. And in one of my latest trainings, I talk about the 5 steps for this intentional success and intentional growth. So if you're someone who's like, I don't even know what that means, like, where do I start? Definitely go check that out. There's 5 big main 5 like components to it. It's pretty easy, but if it's not been your natural behavior to be able to be more intentional and strategic like that, then absolutely go check out the framework. Um, it's on a training called 5 Steps to Make More Money in Your Creative Business Without Stress and Struggle. It absolutely applies to money. If money is the success you're looking for, it also applies to other things. If you're like not necessarily focused on success, but you're focused on if you're not necessarily focused on money, but you're focused on a different aspect of success in business, then it totally applies to you. So go watch that, absolutely. And then start integrating that into your approach. I promise you, you are going to start having more consistent success, reliable success. You're going to be able to say with some level of certainty, when I do this, then I succeed. Like when I do this, I sign clients, or when I do this, then I make money, or when I do this, then I I get a better response on social media, whatever it is, like that cause and effect of being really intentional, looking for the results and the success that you're after. That 5 step approach is absolutely what you should be using. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. I didn't even end up using my board. I was gonna like draw out a waterfall or maybe like a path when I was talking about the map. I didn't do that. Um, but I hope you enjoyed it anyway, and I will see you next time.